Welcome to Cognition Unleashed. If you want to master the urinary system in great detail, you have come to the right place. By the end of the lesson, you will understand why the excretory system is important. You will be familiar with the organs that form part of the urinary system, the structures of the kidney, the nephron structure and its processes in detail. We then have a quick quiz, followed by an activity unleashed. Let's get started. The excretory system is important because it removes all the metabolic waste substances in the body. An example you might be familiar with is the respiratory system. Yes, right now you are releasing carbon dioxide because of it. The urinary system removes waste in the form of urine. So which organs are responsible for urine? The urinary system consists of 2 kidneys which filter the blood, 2 ureters which transport urine to the bladder, a bladder which stores urine temporarily until you urinate, and a urethra which removes the urine out of the body. It is easy to confuse ureter with urethra. A simple way to remember it is that the urethra throws urine out of the body. But of course, in exams you would say remove instead of throws out. You need to sound professional. The kidney has blood going into it via the renal artery. In the diagram it is red because it is oxygenated blood. The blood leaves the kidney via the renal vein. It is blue because it has deoxygenated blood. The outer membrane of the kidney is called the renal capsule. The area directly after the renal capsule is the cortex. After the cortex is a region called the medulla. Once the urine is created, it leaves the kidney via the ureter. The nephron is known as the functional unit of the kidney. We are going to cover the parts and its functions. Let's start with the parts. We have the glomerulus, which is a network of capillaries in this cup-shaped structure called the Bowman's capsule. The efferent arteriole within A carries blood into the glomerulus, and the efferent arteriole within E carries it out of the glomerulus. Think about it as an E4 exit. This cup-shaped structure, as mentioned before, is called the Bowman's capsule. Together, the Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus forms what we call the Malpighian body. The rest of the nephron is called the renal tubule. The first part of the renal tubule is called the proximal convoluted tubule. Then we have this area that looks like a hairpin, which we call the loop of Henle. It consists of 3 parts: the descending limb, which of course goes down, the hairpin bend, and the ascending limb that comes back up. We then have the distal convoluted tubule. And finally, the collecting duct, which is the wider tube right at the end. It might be a lot to take in the first time around, but I promise it gets easier. Just go over it a few more times. Now, let's talk about the processes. To do this, you have to picture capillaries called peritubular capillaries wrapped around the entire renal tubule, like vines around a tree. The ultimate goal in this process is for the beneficial substances like glucose and minerals to be filtered into the bloodstream, and all the waste substances like urea and uric acid with salt and excess water to be removed via the urine. Please also note that the content in the nephron is called filtrate. It becomes urine only when it is in the collecting duct. So the first step we are talking about is glomerular filtration. It takes place between the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule. Everything, good and bad substances, except blood cells and blood proteins, will be pressurized into the Bowman's capsule. The second process we are covering is selective reabsorption. It takes place in the proximal convoluted tubule. During this process, the beneficial substances like glucose is reabsorbed back into the blood. The next process we have is osmoregulation. It takes place in the loop of Henle. As you might have guessed, it sounds like the love child between osmosis and regulation. This is because water balance takes place here, which we will discuss later. Tubular excretion takes place in the distal convoluted tubule. This is the opposite of selective reabsorption. Here we have bad things like urea being absorbed back into the nephron. And finally, all the filtrate with excess water, urea and uric acid, is transported as urine via the collecting duct, which makes up the renal pyramids. It then moves down the ureter to the bladder and out the body through the urethra. I have created a table for you summarizing which processes occur in the various parts of the nephron. You might want to write it down or take a picture to recap later. The nephron plays a role in homeostasis. What is homeostasis? It is about maintaining balance and harmony within the body, despite changes in the internal and external environment. For example, because of the pandemic, you might know that the human body needs to maintain a body temperature of around 37 degrees Celsius. This is why you might shiver when it is cold, so that the body warms up, or why you sweat when it is too hot, so that the body cools down. This is what we call negative feedback mechanisms. The body also needs to maintain water balance and a sodium balance, for example. Let's delve into water balance since the nephron plays a role in it. In order to keep it short and sweet, I am only going to explain what happens when water levels increase in the body. The exact opposite of the explanation will be true for if water decreases. If water levels increase because you have had too much water, or because it was a cold day, for example, the body will secrete less antidiuretic hormone, also known as ADH. This decrease in antidiuretic hormone leads to a decrease in the permeability of the renal tubule, which results in less water being reabsorbed back into the capillaries and more water being excreted in the urine, which is why you will notice that urine is very dilute, making it a light color on those days. This slide shows a concise summary. It's the quick quiz time. I'm going to ask you 2 quick questions. You may pause before I provide the answer for each question so that you can test your own understanding. Number 1. What do we call the fluid in the proximal convoluted tubule? The correct answer is filtrate. Number 2. Will there be more or less antidiuretic hormone secreted if you have not had enough water? There will be more antidiuretic hormone. Well done. You have unleashed the activity. Pause the video, set up an 11-minute timer and begin. Once you are done, you may view the answers on the next slide. If you found the video helpful, please like and subscribe to the channel. Please also click on the notification icon so that you can be notified when new videos are available. Good luck for whatever upcoming exam you have. See you in the next video.